life in 3 dimensions got me bent and got me twisted. I know I done said a lot, but I should probably stop pretending. I don't really hold the key and I can't really push a button. I just step up to the mic and try my very best to bust it, but I ran out of breath. It's tight in my chest, my feet just might fail. I can't stand the pressure.
All right, Jon Kabongo, welcome back, man. I appreciate you.
Hey.
Appreciate you coming back on. Look, man.
Yeah, man.
2 hours wasn't long enough last time, so I had to bring you back. And
it's crazy. It's a lot of conversation, but it's good conversation, so can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, I miss you sitting across from me in my living room, but Zoom and technology will have to do for today.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, man. So, like I just said, you're coming at me through a computer screen this time because, sadly enough, we don't live so close anymore. But you're back home, correct, in Toronto?
Yeah,
I'm
in Toronto right now. Yep.
Where you're sitting, it doesn't look like it's too chilly up there right now.
Yeah, it's pretty hot. It's Toronto was the hottest city in Canada yesterday.
Oh man. So what is hot up there?
We go by Celsius, so 40 degrees Celsius. If you're familiar with that.
Yeah, a little bit. That sounds hot. Well, look.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. A lot's happened since we at least recorded a podcast together. Man, let's start here. So for you, as people should know, you're a musical artist, an amazing musical artist. I'll just add that in. Since then, you released a new album, as did one of your idols, Mr. Kendrick Lamar. Both of you released albums. Man, I love to talk about some of that. We touched on both last time you were on here. So let's start with yours, man. It's your latest, Overtime. It was your third of what you called a trilogy. How has that been? Like, what has been the response to from the public?
People that have listened to it enjoyed it. You know, it's something that I hope, throughout the years, people will continue to go back to. I mean, I'm extremely proud of it, of course, but I'm at a place now where I'm already, moving on to the next thing. I just have a lot of plans. I have a lot of ideas, and, I'm just happy to have created something like that. And I'm happy to, just let it live. And, I'm hoping that people just listen to it regardless of when they come into knowledge of my music. Like, if you figure out that I'm an artist 10 years from now, I hope you still listen to this 10 years later, So, again, very proud of that body of work. A lot of great response from the people that listen to it. I think people, mentioned a lot of things about my maturity as an artist, my diversity, in sounds. So, it's been good to hear that type of response and to feel like the future is bright and my best days are still ahead of me when it comes to music.
Yeah, man, I loved it. My only critique is I wish it was longer, man.
I know that, and that's the thing. Like, I made a lot more songs for that album that were like, I think like. At first, I thought it was going to be like 18 songs. I recorded like 20 something for that project.
Okay.
And I just kept cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting. And like, surprisingly, it got cut down to 9. And that just fit my concept anyways. But yeah, man, like the selection process it's difficult because you're in love with songs for months. Like, I can make a song and say like, this is my best song for like 7 months. And then I get to the 7th month and I'm like, song's not that good.
Interesting.
So it's definitely the most difficult process when it comes to wrapping up an album. It's just like that selection process, like it can get very, 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 very difficult and emotional because of the attachments you can have to certain songs that might not even be what need to come out.
Right. So on that note, I know you like them all for different reasons, but do you have a favorite song personally to you that was on the album and one that you think most people have liked the most from feedback?
Probably Closure. I think it's just like a good song. Like, it's good melody. It's a good story. Yeah, I don't know. I just definitely feel like it's a very global song. I think it's very relatable, just like for so many different types of situations. And I also just think it's just very accessible sonically. Like you can listen to it very easily. It doesn't challenge your ear that much, and not in a negative way. I believe. I think it's a good type of accessibility. You know.
Nice. Was that one of your favorites and or people's favorites?
Yeah. I would definitely say that's a standout for a lot of people. But
okay,
again, there's so many, man. There's so many different songs on there that are good. But I definitely probably revisit that the most and still feel some sort of what's the word, like some sort of like newness to it. Like it just feels like this is one of those very timeless songs for me that like every time I listen to it, I'm gonna, feel like it could have been released today.
Yeah. I love it. I love Closure. Man, I think my two favorite were are War Cry and like it's 2013.
All right, those are good. Those are good. And I think what's good about those is like, I mean, War Cry, I just feel like it really shows me in like my lyricist, element, where I can just be witty and just, say all these observations and, have all of these like punchlines and stuff like that and have no hook. And then like it's 13, and I just think it's just like, it's a very, very, I don't know, it's a very good combination of like melodic music and, just some more storytelling. So I definitely see why you would like a song like that. Those are, again, I can't say which one is my favorite, but those are songs that I love a lot too. So
I think there was elements to War Cry that I think a lot of people, myself included, identified with, I'm sure for similar but also different reasons than you do as the writer and artist. I wrote down some of them. I was wondering if you could even explain some of the themes, not just in the song, but of this album that you'd want people to have picked up on. I know that it was, part of ending a trilogy, but it was also, I think, can stand alone too. So I picked out some of the lyrics. No lucrative path without empathy. I forgot the part that rhymed with at first. I can't solve the mysteries. I'm just living the life with the evidence that they've given me. If we're talking facts, just give me history. Don't deceive yourself and act like it's an epiphany. Those have some not some, I was going to say subtle, but not really even subtle, like some obvious edge to them, and they're directed at something. I was wondering if you could explain where lines like that are coming from or came from.
Yeah, again, I think everybody has this like belief that there's something wrong with the world, and a lot of people just have different perspectives on what the issue really is, And I personally think that was just my jab at, the fact that I feel that same sentiment. And to me, just like with my worldview, I have my own ideas of what's wrong with the world and, how the world can be better. So it was just me expressing that, me letting people know like, hey, like, I don't necessarily just want to be here and act like everything is how it should be, but like I'm always gonna make sure that like I live my life according to what's like knowable. I'm not gonna try to know more than what I can, and I'm not gonna act like certain things aren't, able to be understood. So I just try to stay in that middle ground of like, look, whatever can be known, I'm gonna try to know it, and I'm gonna try to stand on it.
Yeah. It made me think, were you even kind of talking to yourself? Because I've seen you post some stuff on social media about, because, with the album release, you've gotten, we'll get into this other part, but you've gotten some attention recently for another single you put out. But then you recently put up, and you're very open, which I love, very open with how blowing up you are, but also you're not. Like I think you said something to your followers, I guess, on social media that, might look like, you're blowing up and getting all this
Right.
attention, but you're still just a struggling artist. So
Right.
was that you kind of talking yourself even, like not taking shortcuts or just having a realistic perspective of life?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like my goal is to like be as honest as I can in my music, like whether it's right or wrong, obviously I'm trying to do the right thing, but I always want to make sure I'm being honest, and like the honest truth is that was something that was, seen by a lot of people, with influence and, liked and admired by a lot of people with influence. But at the end of the day, like I'm not too far from the position I was before the release of the song, I'm still in that same position as an artist, but there might be a little bit more respect to my name because of what I just did, but
Right.
like, this is by no means something that can, pay any type of bills. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not getting offered a lot of money to do shows. I don't get millions of streams. Like, it's very hard for me to convert. And that's the challenge I'm facing right now. Convert that acknowledgement of my talent into actual listeners and actual fans. Because again, it's one thing for a lot of people to know you're good, but what does that mean for you as an artist if they're not even your fans? They're not even actually listening to your music. So I think that's really where, a lot of artists like me are trying to figure out how to, move past. It's like, it's cool when everyone knows you're good or, people, celebrate you for being good, but it's like, it's not going to lead to a career if people don't actually listen.
Gotcha.
And if people aren't actually, invested in like the actual art. Like if it has to be in their library, it has to be what they play in their car. It has to be, because that's the reality. You have to be able to put on a show and have people actually come. That's what a career as an artist actually looks like. So
absolutely.
Until I get there, I'm still a struggling artist.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing my small part to get you there.
And I appreciate
emphasis
it.
on the small.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love that because to me, that's what matters the most, because I know that's the reality, like that's what somebody that's actually supporting me does. They're not just, it's not just like I saw that you did such and such. It's like, no, I listened, I like this, I like that. Like to me, that's real support. And that's why it's always appreciated,
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, it's easy. It's easy, man. Your stuff is.
Thank you.
Stuff is popping.
I appreciate it.
All right. One of the other songs I mentioned I liked was like it's 2013. I got kind of a different question about this one, and I'm kind of drawing a little bit from our last conversation on here because I like how you talk about the intersectionality of just your artistry, who you are, your faith, all that kind of stuff, and how you communicate. So, as a hip hop fan. It's not just in your music. It's in a lot of hip hop music. There's like two themes that I feel like maybe a casual listener might pick up on and have questions about, who share some of the same worldviews as you and I might. And two of them are like, I think it seems like a lot of the music, a lot of rap is like a battle. You think of rap battles and stuff like that, but is pointed to in one of two directions a lot of times, and a lot of times it seems like it's pointed at power, specifically like unpacking stuff like racism or something like that. But then there's other times where it seems like it's rappers beefing or something like that, or pointed at a different group, and maybe I'm just going to pick up on some of the themes like rooted in money and power and status and taking those shortcuts, like we've mentioned already a little bit.
Right.
So how do you, so I'll start there. Like, how do you navigate that, like in your own music and as a listener to hip hop, as like, what is behind those two elements? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I think, hip hop is it's a very, not even hip hop, but music is, you know, when it's trying to imitate life, it's just very journalistic, you know, and hip hop is created in an environment that was extremely capitalistic, you know, and, you know, they were just describing what they were seeing, you know, from the higher ups or from the people in their communities. So it's very hard to not talk about, you know, power structures and stuff like that when, especially, you know, like the battle for power, you know, when you're in such a capitalistic nation, you know, so, in society. So for me, it's like, that's always going to be present because I'm trying to talk about what I described, whether, you know, there's capitalistic attitudes in government, in street culture, in relationship culture, like all of these different places where like you can see capitalism play out. It'll be present in music that's being created by people living in that society, you know? So, again, my perspective and my opinions on those things can definitely be found in my music, you know, and my observations. Sometimes it's just an observation and it doesn't even really have an opinion. It's just what it is, you know?
Do you find yourself, I'm not going to ask you to put anybody on blast or anything, but do you find yourself feeling that way as an artist, like people that are like, I don't know, the same status or level of established as you? Do you feel like there's anybody out there like you that has taken those shortcuts that you're not willing to take?
Yeah, I think it's tempting, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, people have like a lot of, what's the right word? People have desires, you know, people have longings, people, you know, are human, people want to reach a certain place in life. And sometimes like they're so focused on that like they honestly do not care about what it takes to get there, you know? So, like, I understand that it happens. I think, you know, at some point we all lose our strength and take a shortcut in some way. So I try not to really judge people, but, you know, I always try to encourage, at least, even if I can't do it perfectly all the time, I always try to encourage, you know, the harder way and the more honest way, not just hard for the sake of being hard, but the more honest and the more positive route is always something that, you know, I want to strive for, or at least, you know, encourage people towards, because, I mean, it causes less conflict and issues.
Yeah, man, I love how you put that. That was very helpful. All right, last little bit on this. So I mentioned two things. So like another theme, and I just feel like this is very relevant to the cultural moment we're in right now, but a common thing also I found like is in hip hop, but also, I mean, you touch on multiple songs, but one of them is like it's 2013. How do you navigate, and I know this is some of your personal story too, but like how do you navigate getting recognized and status? And like you mentioned in that song, not every woman's a gold digger, but we know they never touch a man making four figures. That kind of sentiment. That kind of sentiment.
Right.
Like, how do you express that kind of thing, as a lot of hip hop artists do, without feeling like you're, I don't know, being sexist or insensitive and putting women down? Because, you know, obviously we talk about racial elements on here, and I think you'd agree.
Most definitely.
The women of color, especially black women, are put at the bottom so often. Like, how do you wrestle with that?
Yeah, I think, you know, with that song, it's like there doesn't have to be any reach. You know, again, like what I said, not every woman is a gold digger, but a gold digger is a real thing. You know, it exists. You know, just like how there are men that are abusive. You know, there's men that could be gold diggers too. You know, it's not just a male thing. You know, it's there is an opportunist mentality that exists in the world that people hold, and sometimes that causes them to be very like deceitful, you know, and dishonest with the people in their life, you know, and that could be something that, you know, you could attribute to a record label. You know, a record label could be a gold digger because they're just looking at you as a way to make money. They don't care about you as a person. So I don't think that this is something that's specific to women, you know, of course. But if you're speaking about a situation where, you know, relationally, you know, you're trying to make sure your goal is to avoid being in a situation like that, which a lot of people have found themselves in, man or woman.
Yeah.
You know, making that observation isn't really anything that anybody should take personal or anything that anybody should look at as like, you know, a representation of a whole sex, you know, because at the end of the day, like I'm saying, not everybody is, you know, but at the same time, it's like, you know, we got to realize that like we're living in a society where like, you know, like a lot of people, like it's people in general are like more concerned about like material aspect of things.
Sure.
You know, and it's like, and my belief is that, you know, if you're just expecting, you know, somebody to give everything and you have nothing in return, like that's opportunist.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that's a genuine way of looking at a life where it's like, you know, all you do is take without giving, you know, and and again, like I said, that could be applied to anybody. And so that's my comment on that.
Sure. Yeah, I love how you put that. Appreciate you unpacking that on the fly. Last thing on this, do you ever have, I'm assuming people don't message you and say, hey, I hate your music or anything, but do you ever have pushback on like lines, certain takes you have maybe on, I don't know, social media?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course. Because at the end of the day, like I have a perspective that not everybody has. There's so many different perspectives. It's literally impossible to hold a perspective and not have any pushback. Like there's always going to be somebody that just thinks differently, right or wrong. They just have a different perspective. So something I say may make, you know, come across somebody and they'll just be like, I don't agree with that. And they have every right to not agree with it. You know, it's their choice. So for me, and they may not even like the way something sounds. And to me, it's like understanding that is good for me because at least I'm aware of where I stand in the midst of things.
Do you ever find yourself?
I would rather.
I'll say, do you ever find yourself like wavering, like going back? Oh man, did I say that?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
100%. Especially even like with a song like It's 13, because it's like, it's such a touchy subject.
Right.
You know, like when you're like, as a man, like expressing like your displeasure with the opposite sex is very dangerous, you know, because you don't want to make it seem like you're just attacking like, or making the opposite sex look worse, or, you know, or you just like, at the end of the day, it's just like, sometimes you may feel like you're not being treated right or fairly. And like, you know, it's not an issue to express that, you know, and I think that's the way you build a healthy relationship, just like how a woman will have something that she's not pleased with to say about you.
Right.
You know, and in order for you to grow as a man, she would have to hold you accountable for what she thinks is selfish or inconsiderate, you know? So for me, it's just like, what's most important is that like, I'm honest with how I feel, you know, if I feel like I deserve a certain type of respect as a person, you know, not as a man or whatever, just as a person, you know, it's important for me to write about it, you know, when describing situations.
Right. Do you like engaging with people when they give you that kind of feedback, or do you find yourself with boundaries having to ignore it?
I'm fine with any conversation, you know. I think for me, it's like, if there's something I can say, you know, that I've thought about, I'll say it. But if I don't know what I'm talking about, you know, I've lived in the entertainment world, you know, and I've seen these things play out. You know, I've seen how very toxic and opportunistic things can get.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm speaking from knowledge. I'm not just speaking from like assumption, you know, and I think sometimes for me, it's very, very important to just, again, say what I'm observing, because there may be people that have never seen anything that I'm describing. You know, they may not even know like certain things are even a thing, you know, because it's just they're just so disconnected from whatever picture I'm painting. So, yeah. And I think to somebody like that, it may seem odd, or it may seem very contrary to their reality.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you know? On a much smaller scale, I like when I don't come at it like, I hope people have a problem with what I'm saying or something like this. This is just, you know, much smaller platform, and I only do this podcast and say stuff on social media every now and then. But I like and welcome engagement. I feel like I feel as passionate about engaging as I do putting stuff out, because I think it's disingenuous if I'm just closed off, and I don't want to throw out there as if I'm putting something out in a vacuum. And, you know, I feel like you got to walk the walk and be willing to engage with people that may or may not disagree with you, and not just fist for comments.
My bad.
Oh, you're good. And not just, you know, walking around for people to agree with you, because I think you can speak truth, like you're saying, and be willing to be wrong and rethink things. So I love how you said you navigate that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Let's take a quick break. Yeah. And then we'll come back with some Kendrick.
Ooh.
The nightmare might scare you, no worse than reality. They hunt you by day, R.I.P. Ahmaud Arbery. Everybody got a time, but that's less than comforting. I hope I'm alive by the time they choose to comfort me. Mosquitoes in the vein, or leeches on my soul. This money on my mind is a fracture in my bones. You get crippled by continuing existence like a ghost. And they wonder why we drink, and they wonder why we smoke, and they wonder why we think that everything's a joke. I'm shocked that we can sleep, must be the thought of letting go. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm better with the valley. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm better with the valley.
All right, as I mentioned, you're not the only one that put out an album since we last talked, but a small guy known as Kendrick Lamar put one out.
Small guy.
So he's I'd say probably the artist that influences you most, it sounds like. Would you agree?
Artistically, yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think he's definitely somebody that musically and artistically I've just studied a lot. So yeah, I can't deny the fact that his approach to creating is something that influenced me like greatly throughout my life.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say it goes without saying that this new album was an artistic, you know, I'd say work of art. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I'm assuming we're going to unpack some of it, but you think you liked it, correct?
I did like it.
To paint with broad strokes. Okay, so
I did like it.
Just wanted to make sure we were there.
Okay.
So that came out. How's it been? A few months now?
Yeah, since May.
Yeah, I want to hear way more of your takes, so I don't really want to share many of mine. I was wondering, like, roughly how it compared to the other albums, and kind of on theme with how many you've been unpacking things on here and in our last conversation. How did you think about like the listenability of it? I think that's the word. As well as like, were there songs that stuck out to you that he kind of did what you talked about, like played a character, or was trying to give like I don't know, like I don't think anyone else does it like he does, but give a message like as a persona.
Yep.
What did you think overall of kind of those elements that we've touched on a few times?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, with this project, he did what he does at a high level again. And I think, you know, there was many moments on this project where it was pretty obvious that like he was in a different space than we've ever seen, you know? Like this was a new person. Like a lot of the songs that he made sounded very different. There was just different ideas, different perspectives. Just different views.
Okay.
sounds and everything. So different characters. This was a lot more personal, a lot more of his like actual personal, like immediate like life, you know, in terms of like his situation with his wife and, you know, his kids and stuff were mentioned. So it's a new side of Kendrick, and honestly, it is a new Kendrick altogether. Especially when it comes to his faith, you know, he definitely is in another space. You know, he's not where he was before in terms of his beliefs. So
what were some,
we could kind of,
what were some of those, like what were some of the specific changes from, I guess, the last album?
I mean, the album is very it's very new age. He has Eckhart Tolle on the album, who's kind of guiding him throughout like this therapy session that he's having with himself and I guess Eckhart. And you know, knowing who he is a very like new age, you know, spiritual thinker. So again, like Kendrick is staying very spiritual, but his views are definitely like altered from, you know, what we've seen in the past. You know, a lot of references again to Christianity like New Age does, but just with a different spin on it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there were songs like, well, I mentioned listenability. So my friend, I think he might have gotten this from another podcast or something, but I think I agree with this take. I thought the album, again, was like, artistically, it just was incredible. It was just, man, I mean, it's just crazy how I think above everyone else he is in some of these, how just his artistry for sure is like second to none. But I don't know if the album is like something like I want to listen to a lot. Does that make sense? Like, it's not one that I'm like, I just want to chill. I want to put on this album. Because it is, I mean, it's hard to listen to some of the songs. I thought, like.
Right. No, and that's how he is. Right. And I think I've adapted to his style. Like, that's how I knew he was going to approach it. You know, so I was ready for that. And that's kind of what I was anticipating, because I think when he does that, he opens up my ears to things that like I may have never even expected from just anybody, you know, and from music in general. So I think that's what's good about it. You know, it's very forward thinking artistically, and like, you know, that's how we get, you know, new sounds and new arrangements as times, you know, progress. So
would you put it on to like chill by yourself, or is that something you want to throw on like the bows and like really concentrate and take notes?
I mean, for most of the time, like I'm always like, it's hard for me to listen to music and not take notes, you know? Like it's very rare.
Okay, well, yeah, like, I should have known that.
Like I'm very intentional with when I press play on something. Like the only time where it's not intentional is when like I'm not the one playing it.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm just hearing something somewhere, like, you know, I may be paying attention a little bit and like I might be very aware of what's going on, but at that point, like it's not in my hands. So it's like, I'm not really hyper focused, but you know, because like my time with music is so precious, like every time I press play, like I already go with an intention to like hear something, you know, or like understand something or find something new. So like I find myself listening to it a lot, but that's only because like that challenge is something that I appreciate. You know, it's what makes me go when it comes to this art form, you know?
Right. It was a long album. Two of the songs while I got you on here, wanted to ask you about. We Cry Together. I think of that one when I think about like a little like hard to listen to. So like what is, and I'll caveat to people listening, it very, very explicit. We've been candid about that, and in our last conversation, even talked about the presence of profanity and where he was coming from anyway, and playing personas and artistry. So just giving that out there, you've been warned, very explicit album, and especially something like this song. But We Cry Together, what is going on with that song? Can you explain that a little bit?
Like, in my opinion, it's like, you either want to know the problem or you don't, you know? And it's like, he's just showing you the issue. Kind of like how I was talking about earlier. It's like, if you want to know what a toxic relationship looks and sounds like, well, here you go. You know, and I think that's the power of the song. Nothing about it is glorifying what's happening. Like, that's not any type of glorification at all. You can sense, even by the instrumental, how deeply wrong this whole situation is.
Yeah.
You know, even the ending of that situation just feels like incorrect, because you're like, yeah, that's how it ends, but this is not good. You know, this isn't healthy. You know, and I think that even, like, you know, could, you know, cause something in the listener. Like, that can make somebody realize, like, okay, like, this is something I should avoid. You know, not something that I should, like, condone or, like, you know, go towards. Like, you know, I don't know. I just definitely feel like so much, like, disgust with the situation when I hear that song, that it's like, wow, like, even though there's different ways to go about it, like, he is definitely, like, showing you how foolish and how ridiculous it really is. So I think that's how that song can be used for good.
Okay. And do you think, you kind of touched on it, but you think that he wants his listeners to take similar to what you took away from it? Away from it themselves? Like, you're not reaching and, like, trying to make it fit into some good box?
No, I mean, when you listen to it, right, like, the whole point of it was, you know, like, to, like, he knows what he's doing. You know, he knows exactly why he got an actor, right, to be the woman on the song, like, and why even the song doesn't even feel like a song. It feels like a musical, you know, like you're watching a play where it's just like two people have this script, and, like, there's a very like intentional aspect to it. You know, it's not just him trying to show an argument. You know, even the things that are said, you know, these are the issues that, you know, both sides have with each other, right or wrong. You know, these are the conversations that are being had. And I think what he did was bigger than just his opinion. You know, the song literally starts with a voice saying, "This is what the world sounds like."
Right. Yeah.
Like he knows what he's doing. You know, he's trying to show everybody, like, you guys want to see how foolish we are? All right, let me show you.
Yeah.
And that music, like, I think adds that emotional aspect to it, where it's like, you're not just saying what it is, but you're making people, like, feel what it is.
Right. So if you're up for it, lean into that song with understanding the uncomfortable, like, kind of feeling is almost what the purpose is.
And the reason why I think there's a lot of, like, intelligence behind, like, the process of that song is because he kind of lets you be the judge. He lets you, you know, be in the middle of the courtroom and hear everything and be the judge yourself. Like, does this sound right to you, or does it sound wrong? You know, and I think it's very, very hard when you describe something so explicitly to not understand where the error is.
Right. Yeah, I won't lie, man. I was
for that song at least. You know?
I was listening to that, and that's part of the reason why I think I messaged you, and I was like, I got to hear more of Jon's take on this, because I think what we talked about, like with swimming pools and Lucy, that he's doing something like that here, which I think I was picking up on some with your help. But yeah, man, that's helpful to unpack. All right, the other one was,
and I mean, the song right after that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say the song right after that. It's a resolution. You know, it's Purple Hearts, and that song is literally all about love. You know, it's all about healthy love. It's all about restoration. It's all about forgiveness. It's all about, you know, Ghostface Killer has this whole verse that's about Christ, and that shocked me. I'm like, did he write that? Is Ghostface Killer? Like, where is this coming from? Did Kendrick write this and make him? And that's what for me was just like, you know, something that made me want to have an actual conversation with him, because it's just like, you know, how did this idea come about? Did you tell Ghostface to say this, or did he just come on his own and do this thing? So, yeah, again, like, this is why his bodies of work are meant to be taken in as a whole, in order, because you listen to that song alone, you don't even understand that it's being used for a particular purpose, and there is a more healthy resolution to that he's going for.
Right.
In the following song.
Right. One other song I wanted to ask you about before I get to the even bigger song I wanted to ask you about. The last one on the album, which he also did the music video for a little before the album came out, but The Heart Part 5.
Yeah.
What do you have thoughts on what was going on with that one? I'm assuming, so my take, which is not as by any means as unpacked as yours will be, but like it seemed like he was doing kind of what you're already talking about with these songs and just saying the state of things, and it is what it is. I was wondering, like, just what, again, he'd want listeners or people to take away from that. And the video is really powerful, strange but powerful. He did a bunch of shape shifting, and with his face rapping, it was Will Smith, Kobe, OJ, Jussie Smollett. I can't remember the other two. Nipsey Hussle.
There was Nipsey Hussle, Kobe.
Yes. I feel like
you said Kobe already, right?
Yeah, I feel like I'm missing one. Will Smith and Jussie Smollett. I can't remember. Maybe I didn't leave anybody.
I'm forgetting too.
Anyway.
But yeah, we could always revisit and figure it out.
Yes. Why? What's going on with that song? And I mean, I'm going to look it up. I feel like we got to know, like, why those people being the talking heads.
I mean, a lot of people, had their theories. A lot of people were saying that, because like these are people that were lifted up and torn down by the community, by the world, and like he's basically trying to show that, like, regardless of how powerful and successful these people become, they're still human. Like, they still die, they still make mistakes, they still, and I think that's why even like you see him, right, like when it's just his face, like his facial expression is so strong. Like it's so deeply connected to that concept because he looks so helpless.
Right.
Like the whole time he just looks like he's whining. Like it's like he just got into that mode like very well. And like you could feel it on his face, that like, it's one shot, it's one shot and it's a close up of him just looking, like he has no life in him.
Yeah.
In a way. And when you hear the content of the song, it's like, well, that's what it would do to a person, regardless of how successful you are. Like that's very, 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 very difficult stuff to digest. And that's why I respect him, because he has every tool in the world that you need to just disconnect from reality.
Right.
He has all the money, he has all the fame. Like he can always just like, live a fabricated life where like he's trying his hardest to make it seem like he's above all humanity, but he still allows himself to be very connected to the everyday struggles that every human faces, and that's the power of that song. And I think that's what he was trying to, and I can't say that's what he was trying to do, but I think that's what using those faces in that type of scenario does as well.
Right,
so,
right.
Like that song is just like a very high level type of description that like you can't do that unless you immersed yourself in something like that. Like the stuff he's saying, it's very specific. You can't say that from the outside looking in. It's just, you can't. And that says a lot about him because he doesn't still have to, again, this could be from memory, but still it's like to, very, 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 very sharp observation for that. Very sharp.
I loved that song and video because I feel like, and I'm very big on what I think should be discussed publicly or in-house, like I like to say it, or like players only meeting type thing. And like, I felt like that was a brilliant dialogue with, he kept saying for the culture is like the big thing he keeps saying in there. And I just like that he gave us a peek into what is being said or could be being said behind closed doors. Obviously amongst what I'd say the Black community. But we got a peek into into that. Like I felt like what you're talking about of every time one of those faces changed and it kind of went back and forth. And I like how subtle it was, even because you're like, all right, who's that? Who's that? Is that him?
Right.
And also, I think him and
right.
Nipsey kind of look, pretty similar actually. So I was like,
Yeah, it was kind of.
Oh wait, that's Kendrick now. Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. It tripped me out. I was like, whoa, whoever did this deep fake is insane. Like, because this was.
Yeah.
That was pretty impressive. I did not see anything like that before. Like,
right.
Like that seamless.
Yeah.
It just. Sometimes I didn't even feel like I was noticing the change happen. Like, it's just pretty dope.
For sure. The other one I don't know how we forgot it was Kanye. So it was Kobe,
right.
OJ,
right.
Jussie Smollett,
Right.
Kanye, Nipsey, and Will Smith. Also, was he gonna have Will Smith in there before the Oscars? Like that's
a good question. Who knows when he made it?
Right. That seemed like a quick
because
turnaround.
honestly, the thing is though, like honestly, Will Smith had been just getting ridiculed all the way up to that Oscar moment, which is why the Oscar moment happened. And I mean, I can't say that's why it happened, but
that's what you're saying.
That's why that's something that people connected to the past, year or so. Like they were like, we've been counting him in this and that for so long. Like, what did we expect? That type of thing.
If anything, that was like that subtly came to his defense. Man, that was wild because I was like, man, there's no way he just put Will Smith in there. I guess he could have, but I was like, that is quick, man. It felt like a week went by.
And it's possible. Again, it's possible that he just threw that in there, but also I think there was definitely reasons for him to still use Will Smith before that incident, for sure, most definitely.
All right, continuing on the theme, the big thing I wanted to ask you about is your new single, Savior, which was, or not your Savior, right?
Yeah.
Response to Kendrick's Savior. His is just called Savior, right?
Right.
On this album. Man, both songs, that's probably one of my favorites on Kendrick's, but this single was amazing, man. Love it. I feel like there's not a ton of questions because I feel like it is very, very on the nose of what we are already talking about. But I thought I wrote down a lyric. I might not have. Because you talked on a few things, and it was kind of paying homage to Kendrick in your relationship with his music, all the way from what like 8th grade when Good Kid, Mad City came out. Man, so cool. And I feel like this is when you posted about you're still a struggling artist, but did I see tweeted by LeBron James?
Yeah, he liked the post, which was surprising.
That's cool.
So
that's awesome.
I don't know.
It looked like you got a lot of attention, man, on the song. So that's gotta feel cool for somebody that you've been looking up to for so long. I would imagine.
Most definitely, it felt fitting.
Yeah,
it felt fitting. It felt fitting that a lot of my recognition and the respect I was getting as an artist is connected to what he's done, because again, there's a lot of influence and a lot of education that I just received from what he's created, so it means a lot to me for people to understand where I got my information and knowledge from musically,
Yeah, absolutely. So, with Savior, and we just talked about the theme of Kendrick's album and The Heart Part 5. Seems like he's very maybe one of the big messages of the album is he doesn't want to be idolized, and he wants to caution everybody from idolizing, almost putting into words and music the old saying, never meet your idols type thing, which is very interesting. I loved how you condensed it even and made it your thing about Kendrick himself. That was masterful how you did that.
I appreciate it.
While also paying him the respects that I know that you really meant. Everything from saying, in 8th grade when Good Kid, Mad City came out. I forget the lyric. Good City. I mean, good kid spoken to a hood kid. Was that what it, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you touched on, I mean, everything from survivor's guilt. I think the chorus, you say, use your lyrics to finish up my degree, which we've talked about with you using him as an English major, Kendrick lyrics.
Right.
But then I want to ask you, like, I'm assuming it did happen, but like, then you touched on people turning you away when you want to bring in a black scholar. Was that Kendrick or like other black scholars that you're trying to use? That
and I'm just thinking about him.
Okay.
You know, because that's who I saw him as. You know, like I think that's what we see him as. He won a Pulitzer Prize. That's what he is. Right. I mean, stop saying, that's like he won a Pulitzer Prize. He is an educated person. He may not have a high school degree, you know what I'm saying? But like the man is very intelligent, and like, he has educated me and the rest of the world on a lot of different things, and not everyone loves him. Not everyone in the culture loves him. Not everyone listens to him. You'll rarely hear Kendrick at a college party.
Right.
You might, but like he's not the soundtrack to a lot of, people's lives. And, sometimes people want to see a certain image portrayed because that's what they're comfortable with. They're comfortable with young black males being perceived a certain way, and they're challenged by somebody who's not just gonna reinforce a stereotype. That's the best way to say it.
Right.
I mean, this is the kind of tap dancing around it, but like that's basically what I'm saying. Like, he does not fit the stereotype in many ways at times because he is a rapper that is black, that is very intelligent. So,
right. If I don't,
sometimes people don't. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, if his story doesn't show the disparity with education and stuff, I don't know what does. With we said he doesn't have a high school education, but got the Pulitzer Prize. Something. Something. I know you could argue exceptionalism, which is a whole nother thing, but yeah, he's a scholar,
and it was
earned.
A scholar, and it was earned, and it was earned.
Have to be, to be earned for somebody in his field to get that, right?
So, and that's why for me, it's like, a lot of people don't like that idea.
Yeah,
they like that combination of what he comes from and like who he is. It's like, it's difficult. It's difficult, and a lot of people believe that like if you come from something and if you have a certain past and you look a certain way, it's like you will be XYZ.
Right.
That's how a lot of people are trained to think, and he's just not that.
Right.
At all.
Absolutely.
He's just the complete opposite of what someone may assume he is just by describing him on a surface level.
Right. All right, man, let's take one more break, and then I got a couple more things for you.
The nightmare might scare you no worse than reality. They hunt you by day, R.I.P. Ahmaud Arbery. Everybody got a time, but that's less than comforting. I hope I'm alive by the time they choose to comfort me. Mosquitoes in the vein, or leeches on my soul. This money on my mind is a fracture in my bones. You get crippled by continuing existence like a ghost. And they wonder why we drink, and they wonder why we smoke, and they wonder why we think that everything's a joke. I'm shocked that we can sleep, must be the thought of letting go.
All right, we're legitimately going to make this quick because John's phone is on the fritz, about to die. So we may or may not finish up the segment. But look, man, I appreciate you unpacking all the music. Another one of I'd say one of your first loves is basketball, also. In a much different way, mine is too. But I wanted to ask you some NBA questions real quick. You down?
Okay, let's go.
All right. So, like, what do you feel like the NBA is in a good spot? You don't have to unpack this a ton, but with compared to other major league sports and whatnot, with diversity, because one of the big things that just happened this offseason is when my Lakers hired Darvin Ham, it made it so half of the coaches in the league are black. Big thing to celebrate overall, but also something to, I think, grieve, because it took till now for that to happen in the league with 80% black players. So I don't know. What do you think about it as a fan and former player? Really,
I think we talked about it a little bit before. I think we might have.
I think we might have touched on it, but I know that not since this happened.
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good that we're acknowledging that there should be more representation. Especially when a lot of the players are of a certain color. So at the end of the day, it's the world we live in. And again, these are things that I'm not saying that in a way that, that tries to make it where I'm trying to make it seem as if it's okay. I'm just trying to say the fact that if you didn't know, you should know now, this is a real issue. And it actually affects people, and it actually should be changed. So in my opinion, it's about what we do moving forward. This definitely shouldn't be the peak of our attempt to resolve certain issues. And, we have everyone has a lot of stuff to just continue to learn,
Right.
Again, so many different things to talk about, but I think,
Sure.
To keep it, concise and straight to the point, there are a lot of, black men and women out there that can coach NBA teams.
Right.
And they definitely,
No, you're good.
I just want to watch my words.
No, you're good.
They definitely should get an opportunity if it benefits the team.
Right. I don't want to set you up. I don't want to set you up or anything, because I know vocationally you're a little bit in the space now.
It's if it would benefit a team, to have a black coach, there are many out there that can do that.
Right.
And that's that.
It's not because they're not. It's not because they're not out there.
Right.
There's not more. Yeah.
Right.
So okay.
They exist.
So you are of African descent, and your parents are, I think you said is it Congolese?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're Canadian. So I want to ask you more about that. It seems like we're in the middle of a rise in both African players in the NBA as well as Canadians. We just got shout out to Andrew Wiggins for getting that chip with the Warriors, right?
Big time.
We got some rising Canadians. This is kind of off the top of my head a little bit. I know there's more, but I wrote them down too, but ones that I knew. We got Andrew Wiggins, Jamal Murray, Tristan Thompson, who I didn't realize was Canadian. With RJ Barrett, Shai Gilgeous, Dylan Brooks, to name some, and then some of the players of African descent. Obviously, Giannis, Pascal Siakam, Embiid, Serge Ibaka, Aminu, Bismarck Biyombo, and Moutier. Do you feel any extra pride in this being a little bit of shift in representation for yourself?
I just think for me, it's just it just shows that the league is expanding, its reach. It's not just looking at one pool of players anymore.
Yeah.
I think the NBA is realizing there's talent other places.
Yeah.
And it's good that these people are getting these opportunities that they may not have ever gotten before, in the areas that they were in. So yeah, for me, it's just it excites me because I'm okay, there's a lot of growth happening here. There's a lot of growth happening with the game of basketball in general. And it's just something that, is becoming a lot more global, and instead of just hyper focused on America to make it simple, because A lot of people around the world love the sport, and a lot of people would enjoy watching these players play somewhere.
Right.
And I think as the game grows and as, people, discover that there's more talent around the world and start to realize that, I just feel like, there's many more ways this game will be appreciated, just by people that aren't even in the NBA. And there's going to be a lot more opportunities for people that are talented enough to get paid, to play in front of people to do so.
Yeah.
And I think that's what should be created, more opportunities for people who are talented, to just, show their talents in front of people that enjoy watching the sport.
Yeah.
Because there's more than just the NBA, and I think that when we help the world realize that, the game will just continue to grow. The business of the game will continue to grow beyond just the 30 teams in America and Canada.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. Before your phone dies, I'm going to throw it back. I haven't done this in a long time. Got some rapid fire questions for you. Just going to go.
Go ahead.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
You good?
Let's go.
All right.
Let's go.
All right. Rank them. MJ, LeBron, Kobe. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, MJ, Kobe, LeBron.
Kobe too. Okay. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Tupac or Biggie? I didn't know if you froze or not.
Wait, what is it? What's the question? Who's better or who do I listen? What's the question?
Yeah. Either one, you just gotta go with your gut.
Tupac. If I had to pick one artist,
okay.
Tupac.
Drake or J. Cole?
Drake,
okay. All right. Dame Dollar, the rapper, Damian Lillard, or you?
Oh, I'd get Dame. I got him.
You got him? All right, nice. I'll set that. I'll set that up.
He'll cook me on the court, though.
All right. This goes around all the time. 2017 Warriors or 96 Bulls?
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
See, I feel like these are the type of questions you have to have a deep explanation for.
I know that's why I mean and put them on rapid fire.
All right, sorry. Bulls, just Bulls. Because it's the Bulls.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Out of respect.
You gotta do it. Best rapper people don't talk about. Take that for what you will. I know you know a lot more than the average person, but.
Jared Sanders.
Never heard of him. Perfect.
Very good artist.
Okay. Most influential rapper to you, not named Kendrick.
This is not so rapid. I'm sorry.
What's that?
This is not so rapid. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Honestly, J. Cole.
Okay. Even though you picked Drake over him?
I think for me, the order goes, they're interchangeable, man.
No.
They're interchangeable for me. They're like
okay.
1A, 1B. I don't know.
Well, you got the Canadian.
Depends on what I'm looking for.
You picked a homer when you said Drake in the first question. Yeah,
just because in terms of just career.
Yeah.
Just but.
All right, this last one.
There's definitely things about J. Cole that I'm more inspired by than Drake, but I'm very inspired by him in general. So it's all three are my biggest inspirations.
Well, then not to be cliche, but then you got J. Cole who's a baller too. Did a little stint.
That too.
He did a little stint in the playing too.
That too.
Yeah,
that too.
Love it. All right, this is just for my personal gain, and it's another hard one. But who's on your Mount Rushmore NBA?
Right now or just all time?
All time.
Okay, so MJ, Michael Jordan,
naturally.
Not Magic Johnson.
Naturally.
Kobe, Bron. The fourth one, oh my gosh.
I'm just realizing that I usually put 5 on there, but I realized that there's only 4. I just think it's starting 5. But anyway, I'll give you 5.
It's supposed to be 4 or 5.
I think there's 4 on Mount Rushmore.
Is it?
But I think of 5 because it's, I forget.
I don't know. Whatever. 5, 4. I don't even remember. I thought it was 4. The last 2. Oh my gosh. I feel like it's not even going to be a genuine answer. Like, I'm just going to say names. And then, like, I kind of take steps back, thinking back on it. I don't know. That's my honest answer. I don't have a final 2.
All right. It's a Kobe, LeBron, and MJ, like our first question.
Yeah, I don't know who else to put in or to take out.
Obviously, I'm a Kobe guy, but that's the one everyone's going to argue with, which there's valid arguments against it. I know.
Well, what's yours? What's your Mount Rushmore?
Probably those 3, and then I put, it's so hard, and obviously I'm a Lakers fan, so I'm always going to be biased. It's so hard not to put, Kareem. But
I don't think I would put him in my. I don't think I would put him like.
No one would say this, but Shaq as the most dominant player, I think
that's another one.
All time,
but there's him.
And then it feels disrespectful to leave Bill Russell off, even though he played so far ago. But
then there's other guys.
I think those are unequivocally top 6.
People could argue Steph. People could argue KD. People can, it's like.
I don't think there's an argument for KD, but that's another time. But.
But I don't know, man. It's tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
All right, man. We did it. We got through this in just about an hour, and your phone didn't die. I appreciate you zooming in all the way from up there.
Thank you,
up there in Canada, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate your insight and just, man, how you unpack all these different things in such a succinct way. How can we keep supporting you? Is it just streaming your music over and over?
Yeah, man. Listen to the music. Be on the lookout for any type of content, music videos, music projects, whatever. I'm feeling very creative, so there will be things coming.
All right, man.
There will be things coming. Yeah.
Appreciate you. Looking forward to that, man. Listeners,
thank you. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Listeners, as always, thank you so much for listening. The music you're listening to is done by our friend Dylan Dent, and our artwork is created by Ashley Bush. And we'll see you guys next time.
The nightmare might scare you, no worse than reality. They hunt you by day, R.I.P. Ahmaud Arbery. Everybody got a time, but that's less than comforting. I hope I'm alive by the time they choose to comfort me. Mosquitoes in the vein, or leeches on my soul. This money on my mind is a fracture in my bones. You get crippled by continuing existence like a ghost. And they wonder why we drink, and they wonder why we smoke, and they wonder why we think that everything's a joke. I'm shocked that we can sleep, must be the thought of letting go.